Us here on NewsX World. It's always a pleasure to have you on the programme. Now we move on, and a few weeks before Russian President Vladimir Putin's visit to India for the 23rd annual India-Russia summit, External Affairs Minister Jaishankar met Russian Foreign Minister Lavrov in Moscow. This was their 6th meeting this year, focusing on finalising plans for Putin's visit and key agreements, particularly on defence and mobility. Jaishankar highlighted the importance of their regular interactions, noting they have helped both countries stay aligned on regional and global issues. He also emphasised the significance of Putin's visit, expected in early December, where several bilateral agreements and joint projects will be finalised, strengthening the India-Russia strategic partnership. The two ministers also discussed global concerns, including the Ukraine conflict, the Middle East and Afghanistan. Jaishankar reaffirmed India's commitment to peace and stability amid ongoing conflicts. This meeting comes amid US pressure over India's Russian oil imports, but Jaishankar reiterated that India's energy decisions are based on protecting consumers. Jayjit Bhattacharya joins us now. He's an economist and finance expert, and he joins us live from New Delhi. Thank you very much for joining us here on NewsX World. What specific defence or mobility agreements do you expect India to finalise, and why now, especially, of course, given this tension which Donald Trump has created, particularly surrounding oil trade between the two countries?
Yeah, there's the specificities of what would be these defence and mobility related agreements. That's obviously not out in the public, but based on all the conversations that have happened, I think a lot of deals will be signed around aerospace because obviously Russia is a leader in aerospace, and India needs a lot of support in terms of aerospace hardware technology, specifically from a military perspective. And my guess is that possibly the stealth Su-57 aircraft, especially the redesigned one, which reduces the RCS of the Su-57, which is the stealth capability of the Su-57, that has got increased because of the reduction in the RCS, and that basically mitigates some of the key issue that the Indian government had against this military hardware. It'll possibly be on the table because what the Russians are offering is a very good deal in terms of actual transfer of technology, 100% manufacturing in India. And as we have seen, modern warfare tends to drag on if one side is not mature enough, and therefore it's a war of attrition in terms of military hardware. So it's critical for India that we have the ability to manufacture locally. So all of that is from a military perspective. In terms of mobility, it's really not clear as to what kind of mobility solutions is Russia bringing to the table. Is it mobility related to the defense, or is it consumer mobility that we're talking about? I think once the talks are over, it's only then that we'll get more clarity in terms of what was meant by mobility, because till now there hasn't really been any conversation in the public related to mobility. Most of the conversations have been around defense, and the defense conversations have been both ways, of India providing support and military technology and hardware, and the other way around, where in advanced areas such as stealth aircraft, or for that matter even the non-delivery of some of the hardware orders that have already been put in. For example, S-400, which was critical in the last war that India had to fight with Pakistan, and it played a very critical role in defending India. And perhaps some of these issues will come up as part of the military conversation. The mobility conversation is a bit of a question mark as to what exactly will be discussed in that meeting.
Yes, indeed. Do stay with us, Jayjit, as we have further economic updates, this time coming out of India. And India's good exports to the United States increased in October for the first time in 5 months, jumping 14.5% from September, despite the continued imposition of heavy tariffs by US President Donald Trump. The recovery comes after a sharp decline in September, when exports to India's largest foreign market fell significantly following a 50% duty imposed by the United States, which included a 25% penalty linked to India's purchase of Russian oil. Trade deal negotiations between the two countries are currently in progress, while Indian officials indicating that several key elements of the agreement are close to being finalized. India and the United States are advancing negotiations on a bilateral trade agreement, with 6 rounds of talks completed so far. Both countries have indicated they aim to finalize the first phase of the pact by the fall of 2025. The rise in exports to the United States comes in despite India's overall goods shipments dropping 11.8% year on in October, while the bilateral trade declining in 15 of the country's 20 top markets. Okay, Jaishankar Bhattacharya joins us once again. What does this say about the structure of the trade of trade here between the United States and India, even given, of course, that huge 50% levy that Donald Trump imposed on India a few months back now?
Right. And just to be clear, it's not really a reciprocal tariff as US is trying to make it out to be. It's a unilateral tariff because there was no tariff that was imposed from the Indian side. Within that unilateral tariff, what has been the impact in US is that the food prices have soared massively. So there has been a climb down from the US perspective on specific food items, which includes items like spices and so on and so forth. So therefore, we'll see the duty on some of these food items going down in terms of import from India into the US. Also the fact that the increase in exports that happened in October is on the back of a month-to-month reduction in exports that happened from India. So it was on a lower base that the increase in exports from India happened. So there is a long way to catch up in terms of normalization of trade. And unless we have the deal in place that is being talked about, it's very difficult for that normalization to happen and going back to what it used to be. So small pieces like the price of or the tariff on spices is not going to be the long-term healing point. Now, what is turning out to be is that India is being asked and requested to buy more energy from US, and as long as that's of an acceptable price, India has always been open to buying energy from anywhere where the price is acceptable. But in addition to that, India has also been requested to buy corn and buy some other agricultural producers as well as some of the dairy producers. All of these are crossing a bit of a red line for India. In fact, it's a significant red line. However, the nuance that has emerged is that India is going to purchase, for example, corn only for manufacturing of ethanol, but not for human consumption. This is critical because a large population in India is dependent on agriculture, and it's a red line that the Indian government cannot cross. So what's going to come out of this deal is going to be very, very interesting. I think a lot of tiptoeing around the red lines on both sides will have to be managed, and a significant increase in purchase from India of US products will happen subsequent to the deal.
Jaishankar Bhattacharya, thank you very much.